This is Anime at Large.
Partners in Crime. And welcome, everyone, to another edition of our podcast. My name is Ed.
Nicole. Jessica.
David.
Reed.
And we have another great segment today. And we'll be talking, again, Partners in Crime. And I wonder what it is with...
Okay, today we will talk about Psycho-Pass. Psycho-Pass is set in a futuristic era in Japan, where the Sybil system, a powerful network of psychometric scanners, actively measures the minds and mentalities of the civilized population using a cymatic scan of the brain. The resulting assessment is called a Psycho-Pass, when the calculated likelihood of an individual committing a crime, measured by the crime coefficient index, exceeds an acceptable threshold, he or she is pursued, apprehended, and killed if necessary by police forces. Elite officers labeled enforcers are equipped with large handguns called Dominators, special weapons that only activate when aimed at suspects with a higher than acceptable crime coefficient. Enforcers are themselves selected for innately high crime coefficients, marking them as latent criminals. They're overseen by police inspectors who have the jurisdiction to shoot them with their Dominators should they pose a danger to the public.
So, Reed, do you have any... I know you are
Anything to
a
add?
huge fan of this franchise here, so...
Well, it's a franchise now that's had 38 episodes,
yeah,
4 movies now, and now a 3rd season on the way. It's persisted well beyond what I imagined it would initially, but as you heard it from Nicole, this society is not a happy one by any stretch, or it's like how to live in a police state 101.
I'm just looking at the Psycho-Pass scroll board behind you. It's very convenient.
Oh, that's very fitting.
Quite fitting.
Too bad that we don't have video.
Signed by Forbes.
3.
No, it's 4.
It's 4.
Oh, there's. I didn't notice it by
4
the
of
gun.
7.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Reed.
So, like, I can't say I've personally watched a ton of, like, sci-fi drama procedural like this that often, but one of the first things, at least about Psycho-Pass the comic, was that it did start off like a procedural, like, for a little bit, for, like, 6 episodes.
I don't think it was ever much like a procedural.
I would argue for the first couple episodes it was.
He didn't even get training in the first episode.
Like, after that first case is more or less solved, it just sort of drops it and just moves on with, like...
I guess I don't really see it as a procedural because there is no judicial system in this.
Pretty much everything is judged based on the civil system and
Yeah.
what it dictates.
Sybil is judge, jury, and executioner.
Isn't that what I said, David? Like,
Yeah.
this gun should
Yeah.
not be all 3 of these things. This is wrong.
This is... Like... It's sort of weird because it's, like, not, like, completely an oligarchy either.
Well, one of my complaints is this crime coefficient is never well defined. Like, what is an excessive number? Because it ranges wildly. Anything under 100 seems like it's definitely fine, but then, like, from 100 to, I think I saw something up to 400 and something. Very different.
Well, in like the 100s, it's pretty much like, hey, your
Like,
Psycho-Pass is a little cloudy. You will want to see a psychiatrist to talk about your
Well,
issues.
One of the last episodes that I watched, because I did not finish season 1,
Dun dun dun.
the
Can't have complete spoilers if you don't watch it all.
the enforcer, Kogami, one of the main characters, his crime coefficient was 280. So, and that only led to the person being stunned. It seems like there are wildly different things. I'm like, what lets them murder you?
Ah, but that was special permission to have him
Well-
only.
Oh, it's all based on numbers though.
There's a set value. Was it like
I think if it's over 300,
Oh,
then
yeah.
if it's
I
over
think it's
300,
over 300, you
Yeah.
just get murdered.
then it sets
goes-
the execution.
Yep,
And you go splurge.
pretty much.
But
There's a lot of
That's another thing I
splurging in
am
this.
not okay with. Why do these people explode?
Corporal punishment.
if you're
People
over 300, you're too far
exploding.
gone.
Seems
It seems like a
A
messy
little-
clean.
yeah,
They
it's-
have robots to do that,
it's
so
traumatic.
it's okay.
Oh yeah, like there's no such thing as like lethal injection in society or anything like even.
They want to
Tame
make
in
sure
terms of-
these people are dead by making them explode. And
Yeah.
scarring everyone. And they wonder why inspectors have issues.
Well, and the fact that they completely put their trust in the biometric scan, which
they shouldn't.
Yeah.
how
They shouldn't.
that was season 2, I thought.
Yeah.
Well,
But we're
I
talking
don't
about
even-
but
Yeah.
they've even showed though
We talk
in
about
this
everyone.
In the first
season
episode.
that you can trick the scanners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and even in
So-
the first episode, the main inspector is like, this person could just get help. We don't need to kill her. Don't execute her. Let her get help. She's a victim.
That poor girl who was kidnapped, abused, and then had her abuser explode all over her face.
All it was the wrong place and the wrong
Long
time.
Yeah, but they were gonna kill her. Especially when she accidentally tripped into those random canisters of gasoline.
But thankfully she had a lighter.
Yep.
It's funny how that works out.
Well, I understood her having a lighter. That did make a play earlier in the show. Why there are random canisters of gasoline in an alleyway for someone to run into them and get doused in it,
Plot point.
I don't
Bad
understand.
plot point.
Very convenient timing, I guess. And I'm like, I didn't fully understand why that was an issue and was making her crime coefficient higher. She was only going to set herself on fire and die horribly.
It was the stress of knowing that she was about to be executed because her hue was cloudy and Psychopath was
Don't.
high.
I also do not understand
It's one
what
of those
this
stress
Psychopath
leads
is
to more stress, which
measuring.
ups your numbers.
I don't understand how these people are always stressed worrying about becoming evil, because apparently
Just-
it's also a stigma to get treatment.
Just they live in like
But if you live in that society, getting treatment should not be stigmatized, which it obviously is, which is why...
oh yeah, it's with how easy it seems to get someone's psychopaths, it's
And
almost like a scarlet letter in a sense.
Yeah.
It just
I also don't understand in that other episode where, like, being a violent bully didn't affect your psychopaths. Because that was, like, episode 3, where they're just, like, blatantly, violently harassing this one guy. And it was just okay. It's like, Sybil also obviously thought it was okay for him to be a whipping boy. How is that ever
'Cause, like,
okay?
okay, so civil system, I can argue, enforces like a caste system from like just the onset of like these are your outcasts, and later on is stuff you learn how that plays into it. But where you fall in because you're a psychopath, like that's like Calvinism. That's your predetermined fate. You're gonna that's it for you essentially, and like the civil system has like no real promises of like a future or like changing anything.
Well, I just don't understand what violent act affects your cloudiness, because I would think harassing someone violently should make you worse.
But it de-stresses you, and then your psychopath goes
That's
But
down.
you've shown violent tendencies.
But we have determined that the system is flawed, and that's why there is the human element to it.
I don't know. I don't. think
To
that should
some
be okay.
extent, because the gun doesn't activate if
Someone doesn't have their finger on it, sort of thing.
well, if your number is under 100, it's like Psychopaths is 89. You know,
No
no
action
action is
needed.
required.
Yeah.
Gun is locked. Because the gun talks to whoever's using it.
Yeah.
It's a one
Their eyes
directional.
glow teal, and the computer speaks to them.
It's a cool system on that end, actually.
In that
It is
respect, it actually is pretty
Definitely
cool.
an interesting system, but there are so many flaws. to
Yes, I mean, and that is one of the things the show does talk about some. Is
Yeah.
like,
It's,
ideally, this is great, but if you look into it even slightly, you're like, wait a minute, the system's flawed. It wants to kill someone because they were a victim and now they're stressed. So it's like, oh, kill them. The pass is too high when all they need is
it's a
psychologist.
very black and white system. There is
right.
no
There's
context.
no gray in it.
I don't know. I just don't like the things that it's measuring. I don't understand, and that's how the show can make sense.
To me-
because they don't explain it.
It was anything that would make you go against the system in a sense. Like there's the one enforcer, the one woman, his name I can't remember, because she was
Oh!
listening to music that was like,
Yayoi.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
anti-rebellious.
Oh, it wasn't.
It was
Well,
because
it
you
wasn't the band that she
authorized.
liked wasn't authorized,
Yes.
and it was that girl who ends up being an anarchist. She's against the civil
Well,
system.
We should also talk about some of the characters or how the actual job system works and how everything is predetermined and
So probably looking more into the characters and talk about them.
Well, the character revolves mainly around the two detectives, Akane and
Ginzo,
and then the
and
four enforcers.
which
Yeah.
are all latent criminals because enforcers do the dirty work.
Well, some of them didn't start out as latent criminals.
yeah.
They were inspectors who got too in depth in thinking like criminals that they became latent criminals.
Because everyone knows in order to catch a criminal, you have to think like a criminal.
or you just have to be a little too kind in some cases.
or good at profiling.
Yeah, profiling is frowned upon.
Yes, profiling a criminal is like, oh, this old technique of profiling.
Also, when do they start scanning people? Because obviously they're not scanning young adults.
Well, the one enforcer, blonde-haired dude, what was his name, said that he was scanned and at 5 he got
Marked as a latent
marked
criminal.
as a latent criminal.
Okay, so, but then how did that 17-year-old girl get to be a serial murderer? Because she was obviously not being scanned. She was like a 400.
Yeah,
She was locked away at a boarding school.
A girl's
The boarding school does not take care of these people's mental health.
It's like a
Apparently
blind
not.
eye.
That's so weird. I feel like a
Yeah,
boarding school should want to monitor the mental health of its students, especially after 3 went missing. And at least 2 of them were found as murdered.
plastic murdered. I mean, it's
Oh, they were murdered.
They
They
were
were
cut
definitely dead.
art.
Yeah, see, that's what David was saying, and I'm sorry, murder and then body manipulation, mutilation.
Well, what was that final statue? It was like the girl's bodies reaching up and then they were decapitated and in the hands in the air were their 2 heads. Definitely murdered.
And art.
Well, art is subjective, so not my kind of art.
You don't have to like it to have it be art.
Yes.
As long as it
I
moves
didn't say
you.
it wasn't art. I said it was not my kind of art.
Yeah.
I would not pay for that.
Well, the people that find the first artwork's like, oh, this is in poor taste. I shouldn't want this in my house.
Mm-hmm.
It's so real looking. Because it is. Those were people.
Do you feel the way about taxidermy?
Taxidermy is kind of weird when you have like your dog.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Taxidermy
never
and-
taxidermy thing, but I do have a turtle shell from a dead turtle.
But that's just like the shell we made.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like-
yeah, because it doesn't rot
My-
the same
My
way.
former roommate Michelle had a taxidermied raccoon hand. Why, I don't know. think she bought it at a concert.
What, was she wanting it to be like the monkey paw and grant wishes or something?
I feel like she bought it at a concert and she just thought it was interesting. And I'm just like, whatever.
What kind of concert do you...
I don't know. Don't know.
Okay, this is a whole nother set of problems.
I don't really have a problem with taxidermy. I find it less disturbing because some of those creatures did die naturally. They weren't murdered. It's not something I would choose to own, nor do I consider it art, but
They're trophies. Most
For
people
some
do it for
people.
trophies.
Yeah, for some.
some people just have trouble letting go of their dead pet, which is a little disturbing.
At least they don't do people.
That you know of.
Yeah.
At least they don't do
Haven't
people.
you seen the human body exhibit?
I know the science ones where you can see the tissue, which
Yeah.
they mentioned that with the plastification in the show. Full circle, look at that, everyone.
Yep.
There you go.
So Reed, what else can you tell us about this show since you love it so much?
If it's alright, I'm gonna post a bit of a spoiler warning, at least.
Yeah.
To,
We did that with some of the
since
other
I'm gonna be
shows.
moving towards closer to the end game. So at least what stood out most to me, at least in that first season, was when you get to the fact of what the Sybil system ultimately is, or what it's created of, and the implication that the deviation determines the norm. That to me, I thought was like Psychopath that arguably is most insightful.
Mm-hmm.
Was that to do all this predeterminism for the society, you have to objectively view it from outside of the box for it to even like remotely function. And that to me was like, that's really neat. Not to like try and like sell it
You're
short.
not justifying it or
Yeah.
anything, but like the concept was interesting, but at least within the show they're like, this is messed up.
The issue with the show is like with any sci-fi crime thing is they're predetermining for some of these people that haven't done anything wrong. It's like you have the potential to do something wrong, so I'm going to remove you from society, which
Right.
Yeah.
isn't okay.
No, it's not. They have the possibility to clean up their hues by,
It
you know,
doesn't
being
seem
locked
like
away.
all of them do though.
But no, it seems like it's a very hard thing once you get past a certain point. Because essentially you're in solitary confinement.
I mean, once you're an outcast, you can't really get back in.
No.
You're that Scarlet Letter
Yeah.
metaphor. You're branded, more or
But
less.
Yeah.
it's just kind of complicated because you just say like the one character they determined he was a latent criminal at 5 years old. I'm just like, so you took away his whole life for something he hasn't really done but has the potential to do?
Yeah.
Because this is like utilitarianism just taken to the extreme. It's like, what's one person if the whole stays together? Because if the rest of the world is...
But like the whole really isn't together. They've just been lulled into this false sense of security. They're all
That's
still
the thesis.
horrible people.
Yeah.
And they proved that when the villain caused the riot.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
It's not really any more safe than
'Cause they all
the
have-
absence of the system
yeah.
would be.
Yeah.
It's just the illusion of that here's security in this
You don't
heavily
have
police
to-
state.
Right, you don't have to worry about the person in front of you attacking you because
We're
everyone has
worrying
this-
about them for you.
Right.
But at the same case, though, at that level, now you're worrying about yourself in a whole new light. That
Well, it also seems like a stress-inducing system because everything is so dependent on this hue thing.
Well, and
Like,
even
if you're
then, like
constantly
the
worrying about
system
that,
determines everything. It determines what jobs you're
Yeah.
Qualified.
for, you know. So then you know, you can't even decide like, oh, I want to do an office job. It's like, oh, you're only qualified for construction, and that's the only thing you can get into.
Limited choices for you to
Right.
go into. There's no
And-
freedom.
Right, and then you know, oh, middle class my whole life. I can't even really move up. But then they just accept it, like, oh, better get used to this.
And because to them, they got fed the belief that getting rid of that freedom was worth it for that
Yeah.
sense of security. Like, it's, oh, look how bad the rest of the world is. Do you want to be like them? Or do you
No.
want to come...
Have I even seen
Into
the
our
rest
little
of the world? Was
cage.
it really that bad?
It's implied that
In
it's
season
sucks.
1, it's implied
Yeah.
based on the fact that Japan is completely closed off.
Oh, so
From
the rest of the
all-
world could be sunshine and rainbows, and they just don't know.
in the
Well,
context of
there
the first
is-
season.
And there is a foreigner who is in there, and he's like, I was lucky to get in here. So it sounds like from his perspective that,
Well, there's always
outside
the possibility
world
of worse
is worse.
places.
yeah. And that's true. So it could either be
I don't know where he was
sunshine-
supposedly from.
It sounds like it's either sunshine and rainbows or it's total anarchy. But we don't know because we're only focusing first season on this. Look how perfect the civil system is, and oh look,
Anything
you can be
created by
happy.
mankind is not perfect.
And they do say that's why there are humans, inspectors, and enforcers because they're the fail-safe for the system
And then
in
you
case
have
something
those
goes wrong. You know,
random people who are probably something like we once considered sociopaths, which they think they're perfect and can't do wrong, so they don't read right.
that's
What
right.
is they call it? The asymptomatic or
Yeah, they call them
Something.
asymptomatic criminals.
Because their
Because-
actions do not reflect in their psychopaths. So they could be murdering 50 people, but they're still
the system
they're
doesn't
still
read it
clear.
correctly.
they're still clear and only a level of 30. So action is not required, even though you see them murdering someone right in front of you.
Yeah. It's a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
I assume they have to be something like a sociopath. Or what
Oh,
we
yeah.
once considered sociopaths. I don't know that that's still a thing.
Psychopath or sociopath, whichever one is right.
May as well just say psychopaths. It matches the title.
I thought, you know what, we'll say psychopath then.
One of them is no longer a thing. It was just like a misnomer for something else. Or
Anyway, they are not
some
right in
sort
their
of
head.
personality disorder which you only think about you and you can do no wrong in your own eyes.
Huh.
So you have a clear conscience that as long as it's not negatively affecting you, it doesn't matter.
So yes, there are people like that in this show
Yeah.
that don't read right, and our main villain is in fact one such person.
They characterized him really well, I thought, in the first season. In the
I
sense
think
of just
so.
playing him off as, like, the foil to...
He also had
Kogami.
some
Yeah.
amazing tech where he could turn himself into a teenage girl.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, that.
Camouflage.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They rely on tech for everything.
well, yeah, like
Here's my little compact. I just have to push a button, and here's a hologram
Yeah.
Well,
over me.
when you're in your apartment and your apartment's just this blank, room, but you have holographic technology that can change your apartment into any type of
Here's a grand resort.
yeah, like
Yeah.
this 5-star hotel, essentially, just based on
And
what
you
you
have your
feel.
personal computer aid.
I love
Yeah.
that little jellyfish. I wish a holographic jellyfish could wake me up in the morning and make my breakfast.
Oh, also on a note about things outside of the city that they mostly spend time in, you do get to see a bit of moments on, like, the culture outside of that, which is mostly just automated machines and everything. Where, like,
True.
you get the scenes where, like, oh, farming at this point is just,
Automatic.
yeah, there's
machines.
no humans left out there. And, like, anyone who chooses to live that far out of the system, like, you're not free from it necessarily, but
I don't even understand how they considered this in any way an ideal society because they still had all the problems of a regular society. There were still homeless people.
oh yeah, it's just
and drug
relative
addicts.
to what is understood by the rest of the world. It still looks better.
I feel like it's just the same.
Mm,
Which suggests that the rest of the world is such a
I don't feel like it
crapshoot
should have been
that.
that different. I just think they thought it was different because they had that false sense of security.
And that
Like,
could
oh,
be.
even if there is this homeless person, he can't attack me because the Sybil system will protect me.
Yeah,
So he's no
that's-
longer a creepy danger to me.
Yeah, that's that false sense of security. It's just like,
I'm just like, if you're gonna be such an idealized society, you should help your homeless population.
But you know what? The system probably told them that they weren't qualified for anything, so it's not even really
I
their
don't feel
fault.
like the system should be allowed to tell them they're not qualified for anything. There should still be some sort of menial work
There
that
should be.
anyone can do.
And
If
it
you
does
have
seem
such
like,
an idealized society, there should be jobs for
I
everyone.
mean, even they should be
they
like,
should have homes.
yes.
Why is alcohol really even allowed to be sold in large quantities?
Well, a lot of people don't buy it because of the fear of being able to become addicted and
Yeah.
cloud the psychopaths.
honestly, social interaction in that society seems to be like the quickest way to just lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know. Akane has friends. She had friends, now she has friend.
Ooh,
Wow.
okay.
Wow.
Hey, I only ever saw two, and things didn't work out so well for one of them.
Those
You
are
only
just her
ever saw
besties.
two.
Too busy.
But those were just her besties that she would have like
I don't
lunch.
think at that point when she was an adult and focusing mainly on her work, I'm pretty sure the only friends she had outside of work were those two people. I think the other ones were dropped because she didn't have time because work was so demanding.
Possibly, but I
Because
need
for
to
such
see
an
those
idealized
ones.
society, murder is rampant. Because that is
But
all
you don't
they
need close
discuss.
friends. You can go on the forums and be your little avatar and meet up in real life with a avatar
Body.
hologram. and-
VR chat 2.0.
There you go.
That's true.
There
There
you
was a
go.
lot of VR.
Yeah.
Well, not a lot, but
A decent amount.
a decent amount. Yeah.
I would pay for that game.
She couldn't
Yeah.
even
A lot of
recognize
people
her
would.
high school friend.
No,
Or
it
her
was
high
a
school
classmate. I can't
They should've
recognize
been
all
friends.
my classmates. There were so many people I did not pay attention to in high school because I didn't have classes with them or I just didn't know.
If you didn't
And
have
really-
classes
Well,
with them, they're
especially
no
when
longer your
she's
classmates.
disguised as her avatar.
Which is a
like,
cat.
Honestly, I would think that high schooler was using the avatar for a long time, and that should have made her more recognizable.
I don't know. I change my profile pic like every month, so who knows why I look
But
stable.
it was more than a profile pic; it was an online persona.
VR chat, I change my avatar like every 10 minutes.
But you're not trying to develop a following. If you were trying to develop a following, you would
Yes,
pick one and
but
stick with
What,
it.
what- I'm going to come back to you on that question. I'm not sure if I have. Am I?
Oh, it's raining.
If you're changing that often, I don't
Now
know.
they're
Yeah.
going to be able to keep
Fair.
a following because they're going to be
Yeah.
like, this person's just changing all the time.
Doesn't mean he doesn't
You
want to.
stick with the character, essentially.
And I think this was a personally designed character. Like
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else had that character, which is why she was
True.
able to get
I
a
didn't
following.
just-
But she
Beta.
could have developed that character in college, after high school.
But they're not that old.
But I don't. I also
feel
don't
like
know.
she's early 20s, the main character.
I also don't know if they were actually friends or if they were just classmates.
Hmm.
I am guessing
'Cause
they
she
were
said-
classmates to the point where they
She
were
just said,
in
look
the
in your
same
high
class.
school yearbook or in your graduating
Well, they
class
had
yearbook.
to have some sort of interaction to. No, they had to have had some sort of interaction for that girl to know she knew her.
Well, it could have just been, those people in high school that know you and you're like, I don't remember
I
you
do
at
not
all.
feel like Akane was that amazing that just anyone would know her. So I think they had class together, like they were
I
in.
still don't remember all the people in my class because I didn't care.
I completely understand
And this
that,
other
but
girl may have been a slacker and been paying more attention to the other people. Akane was actually focusing on class since she had such a high
Yeah.
rating.
I'm just guessing they had some sort of interaction that at some point in time, maybe not like close friends, but at minimum acquaintances.
And that doesn't mean you still remember them.
They did figure it out eventually.
Because they tracked her IP address.
Yeah, but it kind of felt bad. She's like, yeah, I definitely knew this girl.
No, it's more like this girl got in this situation because of me.
No, she didn't.
No, I'm pretty sure.
I do not blame Akane at all for that situation.
Well, no.
So I do not think it is because of her. Like,
No,
made her
but she
decisions.
still felt bad.
I understand
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
bad, but
Well,
No,
With-
but I mean, her classmate did reach out to her because she knew her and knew that
Yeah.
she was working with the cops. So, like,
yeah, but it was the classmate that offered to help.
yeah, she
Akane
offered.
did not ask because Akane didn't even know her.
No, but she knew Akane, and
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
reason she offered to help. So, I can see why she feels bad because apparently she was
I understand the
apparently she
guilt.
was maybe a big shot in high school because she's so smart, and you may not know everyone in your high school class, but you generally know the ones that are like the very top, like the valedictorians.
Yeah, the
and
ones
stuff.
that just kind of annoy you because you're like, how do you
Because
get
how are
such
you so
good
smart?
grades?
Hmm.
Or the
So-
teachers talk about
so
them
she
like,
may not have
oh,
known
so
her.
and so.
Yeah, she
I
may
had
not know
teachers
this,
like that
but
for one
she
of the
was known.
students.
No,
I had a
just-
lot of those.
I just know by the end, Akane did know that they had met.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not saying they were friends. I am saying they had some sort of interaction while in high school.
They could have, yeah.
And, like, they've both moved on.
Yeah.
Sort of changing subjects here for a moment. Back to that whole thing with the outsiders judging the system from outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I never really was quite sure of, and maybe you guys saw this differently, is why did it have to be asymptomatic? I can't even pronounce it right now.
Asymptomatic.
Asymptomatic people had to be the ones who were the
Driving force?
driving force behind that system.
Well,
I think.
I don't think they had to be the driving
Well,
force.
but those are the ones they picked from the looks of it.
Yeah, it
I
did
don't
look
think
like it.
they picked anyone else.
I think it's because they were irregular, and
Yeah.
since they could kind of look at things in a different light,
Objectively.
or could look
Yeah.
at things objectively,
Because-
that's why they.
Well,
You haven't quite gotten to that point.
I know I haven't.
Well-
but
The way it seems like to me is that with everyone else that gets a normal reading, they're so,
Passive.
well, they're forced into whatever the civil system says. But the asymptomatic people,
they
they're
can do
not.
whatever they want.
They can essentially they still have free will because if they're not getting
Judged. or-
judged by the system, they can essentially do whatever they want and not suffer any consequences. So they have their freedom still. Everyone else is pretty much what they get read as. That's it. They can't get in or out of it.
So, like, then,
So pretty much,
Do you-
they want people who can actually think for themselves. I think.
so like you have
Yeah.
to have leaders then who are free in a sense. You can't have people.
You can't have the sheep determining
Well,
Okay.
the outcome. I
they,
think.
I'm guessing they're also choosing these asymptomatic people because they don't have the same morality as the average
And
person.
they don't.
necessarily think they're doing anything.
So that's why
And
they're
they don't
probably like.
pass judge. And they don't care about passing judgment. They're like, oh yeah, okay.
So that's why I then get off that point. Would argue that those people then would not see the system as the same way as injustice as like the common person there would,
Probably.
who would just wrong place, wrong time sort of situation.
Yeah.
And where that system would be like, oh, it's just another person.
Yeah,
Whatever.
essentially, they're detached enough, I think, where it's like, we can do this objectively.
We're in this big pool together. We can see the big picture. So a couple road bumps here and there. We'll just him down as we go
Well,
along.
Exactly.
Well, just think, if you picked a regular person, not only would they be eventually read by the system as being latent criminals, I think it would be much harder to talk the average one in. Like, yes, whatever the main villain's name is, can't remember.
Makishima.
Yeah.
Makishima, yeah. Makishima sees these people and, like, he saw the one guy being bullied and he's like, yes, he is now to the point where I can manipulate him into believing that he did not deserve to be bullied, so he can take his revenge on the people who did the bullying, and he will go with it. He's manipulating all these other people who have been wronged by the civil system to take their revenge.
So essentially, you need somebody
Like-
who can play a game master.
If he wasn't there, those people probably never would have done what they did. So not only does he not have the morality to think anything of what he's doing is wrong, he is also good enough to convince other people to join in his fun.
And maybe it's because we don't get a lot of other examples, at least in the first season, of people of that type asymptomatic.
Yeah.
That what convinced them to become a part of the system to whatever led them to that place eventually?
Well, there are obviously people with a mental disorder. I don't think they took a lot of convincing because they're.
Well,
I would think most of these asymptomatic people are highly intelligent and manipulative and detached from the world, where they think the world is their plaything.
So yeah, it might have just been like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to do what I want. Okay,
okay.
Because
I can have all
Nakashima
these toys now.
is definitely like speaking of this whole thing like it's a game, and like all the people he manipulates are his pieces.
Yeah, he
to
even
move
says he
around
likes
the
to
board.
play the game. He doesn't want to be essentially outside of it. He wants
It's
to
just-
stay in the game.
The thing that I didn't get was then, for someone who seems so determined to tear it down, for those sort of people to also then become a part of it.
Like, I don't.
Not unless you,
But
because
that's
maybe he
because
does.
at that point they're kind of, since they're part of it, they're kind of above it, so they can change it. They can do
I don't
what they want
necessarily
with
think
it.
he's into like tearing it down.
Well,
I
because he
think he's
convinced a lot of
just-
people to lash out against it. So
I just feel like he enjoys creating chaos.
Well, he wants people to think, hey, I don't have free will. This is wrong. I should be
Yeah.
able to do what I want.
I don't think he's doing it to like be good in a way. Like, I don't feel like he
No, it's okay.
sees it as some sort of justice for these people who haven't had their free will.
so not as like a revolution or anything like that.
I feel like he's kind of like Batman's the Joker, and he just wants to watch the world burn.
No, that's fair enough then.
Okay, yeah.
I can see that.
Because, like, free will does not mean violence in any way. And he is so about creating violence.
Yeah, but I think he also sees that, this system is pretty much just determining everything for everyone's lives. And it's like, if you want to have your freedom, we need to get rid of this. And the best way to do that is get them to
I don't think it's
decide
the
that, and-
best way. I think it's the fastest way.
Efficient.
Okay, ideally, we resolve our problems with discussion and
I just do not believe that the majority of people enjoy committing acts of violence, which is what he turned the whole world into rioting. He started a riot and convinced the people who...
They kind of convince themselves, too.
Well, something was posted online, though. It said that
Right.
if you're defending yourself, your hue will not become clouded, or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't think that was true. I think that's something that they planted to encourage the violence.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
But then people just ran with it because mob mentality.
Yeah.
Well, and everything that's posted online is the truth, right?
Well, natural. I mean, in this society,
course.
I think they believe
course.
that more.
Of course.
Well, WebMD's always telling
I
you
never
that
had
you both have
any doubt.
cancer and you're pregnant.
Right.
Everything on the internet is the truth. So,
your
you know.
child has the cancer already.
Your child is the cancer.
There's meaning to that statement.
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
It's a crazy show. There's a lot going on.
But I guess that's why I think it's a fun show. Because for me, there's a lot to like.
Dissect.
Yeah.
If I can come back to a show after a year and think,
I do not consider it a fun show.
I'll agree with you. There are some shows that I think just are not like. Well, I
It
can't
can
say
be
that.
enjoyable, but not fun.
Yeah. Like,
It's more of a deep thought into
Well,
yeah,
maybe
it's
if we look
definitely-
at this society and say, okay, if this was real, how would we really react? Does this make sense?
better question. What did it take for you to get there in the first place to
Yeah.
require that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the whole part about the rest of the world
I don't
that
necessarily think it would take a lot. Because, like, in any of these dystopian shows or, like, media, your freedoms are taken away little by little until you just not notice it, that they're leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
did say in
And-
the show that people, uh, the system is making these people do these dangerous things, but it's so dispersed they're not even thinking about it. They just kind of accept it as, oh, this is part of life.
Yeah.
Because it's not an all-in-one sort of thing. It's definitely a slow-moving thing.
But I mean, I do like that we have some older characters that are like, yeah, back before the system, this is how we did things, and it worked.
Kind of more referencing the system we kind of have.
Right
Now.
I liked the reveal of the one enforcer being the one.
Previous.
The one
Oh.
enforcer is the one. What are the other people called?
Inspectors.
Inspector's dad.
Oh yeah, that's.
I did
That was a
like
good
that.
reveal. And like his dad was so against the system, as he should have been.
Right, and
Just
as
the
an
system.
actual officer, taking away that ability to actually do detective work, and then just rely on this gun now that will tell you if someone's good or bad.
Yeah.
There isn't any check and balance on the civil system that
Yeah.
exists on a common level.
Yeah, common level, no, but in a higher level, they
Honestly-
think
Higher level,
it is.
It's up to debate whether
Yeah.
the brain trust really does anything.
Honestly,
Right.
something
But-
really should have been changed as soon as they figured out that there was one asymptomatic person.
Right, and then
Like
they
that
find
should have
out
been
like,
a big change.
but instead they
They
just
hid
kind
it.
of sweep it under the rug,
Heck, it
They
became the.
covered it up.
hardcore.
Yeah.
And then you find out like, oh, this isn't as, I mean, it's still uncommon, but not as.
And then they found a
Okay.
second, and they're like, "No, we gotta cover this up. You get him, we'll make him go away."
No, let's make that become the national identity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting concept. Flawed completely.
I feel like they should have
But-
been researching about what makes someone asymptomatic, because those are the real people that you need
And-
to watch in society.
There's just questions like that. Like, I'm still kind of interested how it got to this bad, which.
They
Suppo-
don't talk much about the outside world
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
first season.
And just like, what did it? Was it global warming, income inequality? What screwed everyone over?
Right.
Is the part I'm like.
Well, it had to have been a combination of things, and then
It
it's
sounded
a
like
slow process.
World War III almost
Yeah.
in the
It
sense.
almost did seem that was the case.
That's just
Honestly,
me guessing from what.
Yeah.
World War III will destroy the world. It will not create this.
Well-
based on this, you never know.
I don't
Maybe
think
it's
any
just-
of us would make it out of World War III.
I'm also probably inferring on stuff that came out of the movies, so
Yeah.
I should probably stop there. But
But stuff went down, and now they have this system. And from the sounds of it, the rest of the world is crap. But this
Yeah.
is the closest to ideal that they can get. And it's still pretty flawed, but people just accept it.
safety in a wasteful aftermath.
Right, like, I don't need to lock my door because nobody's going to break in.
No way to
or
risk it.
Well, it's
murder
not
me
breaking
or
in if your
rape
door's
me
not
or-
locked.
Yeah.
It's
well,
just
nobody's
entering.
going to enter.
There's no breaking. It's just entering.
I'd like to see you try that with a court.
I didn't break anything. I just entered.
Sorry, sir. He never actually locked the door. I just let myself in, get myself a cup of coffee.
The mat said welcome, so I just assumed.
Hey, if you're not doing anything wrong, then it's just trespassing. Trespassing.
Wait, I don't think
Minimal
I don't
crime.
think you can do those two things separately. Doing nothing wrong while
And
trespassing.
Trespassing in of
Trespassing
itself
is minimal. I'm
But
not
it's
gonna
still
say it's not.
technically wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's just once you start
What about
stealing
that
and
time
killing
when someone
and
was living in someone's house when
You
they
start doing
weren't
some
home?
permanent damage.
Yeah,
We're up to
that's
debate.
called creepy
Oh,
as.
it's definitely creepy, but they just thought it was being environmentally friendly. Like, you're not using your house during the day. You're gone. Why can't I use your house? We're sharing.
Oh,
Cooperative living.
on the
You're not
mention
paying
of
for anything. You're stealing their resources.
when you mentioned
It's definitely fun.
mob mentality earlier, I'd also like to say the civil systems also seem really designed to just specifically shoot down the mob mentality because that's the quickest thing that would undo it.
I said it was really bad
'Cause
and
if-
mob mentality.
If anyone who had the psychopath is most likely to influence someone else, who would also increase their psychopath.
Right.
It blooms out like that,
They got
and the
taken
whole
out of the
system is
equation.
just
Yeah.
built around the mob is the quickest way for this system to just burn.
Yeah.
So let's be the most like draconic and mean to any evidence that has any chance of that happening.
Right. Essentially remove those people from the equation.
Any potential seeds just
Yeah.
flat, just smash them.
Except they seem pretty bad at that.
Well,
I mean,
when the actual mob did happen, they're like,
Well,
wow, we have
they got
limited
complacent.
resources.
They
Yeah,
got
the
complacent.
cops
They-
themselves did.
Yeah, everyone
Well,
did. They got
well-
too dependent on the system.
They were too dependent on the system. The fact
Yeah.
that they were relying on the drones, but the people in the masks could not be affected by the people in the drones because their psychopaths was too low.
It
Well,
just read a
Yeah,
number
no,
of
Yeah,
the
misread.
machines
Around
actually
that.
read people close nearby, so if there's someone with a lower psychopath,
They would go
it
with
just
that.
went to that.
Yeah.
Circumventing the system. So
Hmm.
Which I'm really surprised it took. This system's been in place, what, 20, 25 years, that it took that long for it to happen.
I'm not really that
Supposedly.
surprised because that technology wouldn't be the easiest to create.
under those circumstances.
Yeah.
Because there would take time to create it, and then time to test it to make sure that it works, and then time to mass produce it.
But it already
distribute
kind of exists even now in our current world. China's already on it.
What?
What?
Systems similar to this in terms of using facial scanning to create a database, and they already have a. I know the worst term for it, which is like social good boy points.
Oh.
I thought I may have had that conversation with you before.
Yeah, briefly. It wasn't too.
Not to the extent of
Yeah.
this show, but it was things like if your score was low enough, they would restrict travel out of the country, and you would also get limitations on.
But how are they scoring you based on your face alone?
Well, no, the face is recognized based on like past
Past
grievances,
history
crimes,
and
and
whatnot.
whatever.
Yeah. It's not basing it more on.
It's a
what-
way to connect.
So basically, if you have a low score, like a low credit score, you can't get a house, and this
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just
But
don't
now-
have privileges because it's based on your crime history and your.
yeah. Instead of tying it to an
Juvenile.
economic standing, we're tying it to a social like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, social interaction.
Ranking.
Ranking, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing that made it really scary for a bit was that there was a part of it, and I think I originally read it as a CNN report, was that if you did things with people of a much lower score than you, it would also bring your score down.
Oh, so the caste system.
Yeah.
Well, it's going like
If you're going to hang out with
they're
delinquents,
assuming those other
you're
people
going to
are
become a
somehow
delinquent.
Yeah. It's the same
in
idea.
with that criminals.
Which- I guess it's relevant because we're talking about psychopaths right now, and that's why I bring it up in this case.
Well, it's not a great thing to do because one, I would not want that information to be out there.
There's a lot of information out there about me that I don't want there to be.
Yeah.
I know when the Equifax
Yeah.
scandal happened 2 years ago or so,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to make an account to do with whatever happened then. Essentially, either way, I got thrown in a bunch of security questions, and the sheer amount of financial history they knew about me, like all my previous apartment locations for the last 5 years, and that was all collected in one place.
Yeah.
That's the part that hurt me the most. Is like,
Well,
what am I supposed to do? I never
that
said I wanted
information-
anyone to hold on to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but where you've lived should be relatively public knowledge if you've applied for a change of address at any point in time, because that's with the post office.
Well, I wasn't even changing address with the post office because this is when I was co-oping, so I was changing apartments every 3 months. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
You had your permanent address, and
yeah,
then you
I had a
had-
permanent address in another state, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm temporarily signing this because I need to somewhere to crash for a couple months. So,
I don't know, because as much as you don't want those things to be out there, a lot of it makes sense because that's just how things are.
and it's like I'm not against one company or saying that that company knowing I was there at that time or that company knowing I worked for them at that time. It's someone who I have no connection to, no
Yeah.
face to, never interact with, knowing everything I've done
Yeah.
without telling me that, oh, okay, I have a tab on you, sir. And like
Yeah.
that.
It's
Like,
essentially
I
the Big Brother
definitely
mentality.
wouldn't want
Everyone's-
Yeah.
this system being in place and having all of that information out there looking at me.
I think when that scandal happened, it was when the first time a lot of people, at least in this country, I'll argue, really woke up to the idea that
Well,
institutions like this are out there. And
but like everything is tracking you. Like you search something on Google now, and like below the search bar now, there's like 7 things that Google thinks you might be interested based on your search history.
Yeah.
heck, they also, I would argue, keep track of your conversations in the sense of, like, stuff that gets shared in Facebook Messenger between the two of us
I don't
Especially
have
songs.
Facebook, so
Yeah.
will end up in my YouTube recommendations, even though I did not remotely click on it.
Yeah,
But
I've heard about that. Like
there's only one way that happened.
Yeah.
So
Same
pretty
idea.
much, the system's terrifying. It's keeping tabs on us. Let's hope
we're
we
always
never-
being watched.
we never get to the psychopaths
And
level.
That's the
It's
moral of the
definitely
story.
possible that we would.
It's possible, but let's hope that it never actually comes about.
please stay vigilant about these things and
Let's
do what you
not
can
become a
to.
surveillance state.
Yeah, or more than what we are now.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts,
Stop
guys?
talking to your appliances. They're listening.
If you don't like shows that have people exploding or require a lot of deep thought, this show's not for you. If you like something that makes you think and question,
It's fun.
I liked the show. I think it brought up some good points, and the characters, they don't go into them too much, but you do get some backstory and things start making sense why they are who they are. And just how messed up the system is.
It was definitely not a show for me. I don't like it, but I don't dislike it. I can identify that it is a good show that has a lot of interesting messages that people need to think about. But was not a show I would have chosen to watch for myself.
Okay.
Fair.
All right.
So if you're late at night after work and you're tired, don't watch this. It's really in depth. It's you have to think a lot,
Might
but
give you nightmares.
it might give
Never
you
given me
nightmares.
nightmares, but I
But,
did fall asleep a couple times.
You know,
It hasn't given you nightmares
if you
yet. But it's in the back of your mind. They'll come to you.
But yeah, no. If you want to have an in-depth, show that you need to think and actually kind of learn as you're going along, something that you can't really predict. This is a good show. It's really in depth. It's a good show.
I mean, at this point, you already know I love sci-fi way too much and anything with moral implications. So
Perfect for you.
yeah, this show is perfect for me. I eat this stuff up all day. It's, there was a show out. I think it was like Person of Interest that has the same exact plot line.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's something that is definitely on people's minds.
Psychopaths is fun. 5 out of 5 for me.
Well, high
Watch the movie.
recommendations.
I stick with I recognize it as a good show. It was not a show I would
Fair
watch
enough.
again.
I definitely, it's a must for me, but if you're not into crime dramas or police shows, then
This is not just a crime drama. This is specifically a murder drama.
I
That
will.
too.
And
They
psychological.
never talk about, embezzlement. That's
That's-
not mentioned as a crime in this universe. Just violent crimes and murders.
I would argue that as overused as it is, the psychological thriller tag with sci-fi is probably more appropriate than a crime drama because
Yeah, I think so.
it doesn't really handle itself like as you said, it doesn't handle itself like a procedural.
Mhm.
It's really just about police officers and mostly about Akane in this sense, sort of brooding about, wow, this system kind of fucking sucks. Yep.
I wanted to say something about the show finally.
So yeah, I would agree with everything that's been said here. It's definitely a show that you really want to watch if you have a clear mind at first and not really preoccupied with again, like if you went from work to home and all you want is just a sit down, happy go show or whatnot. But if you have time and you want to really think about maybe what the society around you could be, yeah, this is a good watch to go with. So I would again highly recommend it from my side as well. So I think we did a pretty good job explaining it through.
Just have to remove those stigmas of issues with mental health.
Yep.
Getting treatment is fine.
Psychopaths
It's good.
is a cautionary tale.
Cautionary tale.
Don't judge people for trying to get help for themselves.
Because sometimes you just need to talk and have someone listen.
Mhm.
And talking about something about listening, what have we actually been watching recently?
I just was watching Disenchantment, which has been goddamn amazing. But I also know it's not really anime, so I'm not sure I really should be talking
It's
about that.
animation.
It's
no
animation.
Japanese.
You can mention
It's if you never watched this by the guy who did the Futurama, and it's wonderful. It's
Is
just
it
a-
as good as Futurama?
I would argue it's even better
I'm gonna check it out eventually.
because Futurama was specifically in like 24-minute episodes, and they rarely had a part 2. This is him being able to have like a serialized format where he can just have an arc that runs for 4 episodes, and it also does not go back to the status quo that often. It's willing to just no, this is the new normal now for episodes going forward. So. Oh, then I was watching Dr. Stone still. So
No one has stopped watching Dr. Stone. We have to see what nonsense comes up next.
science.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Sure,
and what science?
Sure, science.
And what
We could
quote unquote
maybe
science.
call it that.
all I know is Watermelon Suika Head is adorable every moment with hers.
Of course you would.
Wrinkly faced old lady looking.
Yeah, like just she's great. I love her. Just
She's
keep
a
her
good
out.
character.
David?
Yeah.
Football. He's been watching football now that it's come back.
Yes. Sports are awesome.
Even right now.
Sports anime is
It's
awesome.
true.
You
So-
watching the new sports anime?
Not yet.
I shoot
But-
21.
Actually, 21's great. No, still just, keeping up on my shonen so I don't fall behind.
Because they never end.
It's true.
Some of them end.
Do they really?
Fairy Tail
I'm
just
pretty
ended.
sure Reborn is over. Are they bringing that back?
I will never say never. if they can finish Inuyasha, they can finish anything.
I don't know. It's been over for years.
Inuyasha was
Anything could happen again, but that particular arc of the story, I feel
Hey.
like, is over.
The manga's done.
I
I read it.
just
I know
finished
the end.
the first season of New Fruits Basket. It took them 20 years to reboot that.
But they redid that, and I will never forgive them for turning a dragon into a seahorse. So, never again.
Perfect.
Now I'm interested.
The dragon was a seahorse.
Now I'm interested.
Okay.
That's how you get
We'll
people.
watch it.
There you go.
People
Fruits
to
Fruits
watch it.
Basket is great.
It's actually pretty
It is
good.
really good.
I cannot forgive them for that.
But there's actually a reason, which I can eventually tell you if you want, but I won't on the show because, spoilers. And because I read the manga, so I actually know what happens and whatnot. Shows I've been watching, Dr. Stone. Definitely been watching that.
Yeah.
I don't know, for as messed up as the science is and, non-existent in some cases, I don't know, I like it.
It is
I want to
amazing.
see where it goes.
World building in its finest form. You could say.
Right? It was a world that everyone knows. We totally deconstructed it.
It's
Let's
Minecraft the
rebuild.
anime.
Yeah.
It's comfortable and it's like it's coming back to like a long lost friend. Like, thank you.
I just finished the new Fruits Basket first season. So season 2's coming 2020. So
Sometime in 2020.
sometime in 2020. They didn't tell us what season. So that kind of sucks. I finished Psychopaths the other day, so we could talk about it today.
I
And
did
that's all that.
finish Psychopaths, but I talked about it anyways. Maybe someday.
I don't think you're going to pick it back
I
up.
don't think so either.
I kind of want to know how season 1 ends, just so I can end
And
it
season
there.
3 is coming out. You
I
need
don't
to
But
cut-
that would
I
involve
don't
me
think
watching
you-
season 2.
It's only
and the
11
movies.
episodes. You don't need to watch the
season
movies.
3. I'm not
Which is
against
only
it.
8
I might
episodes.
get there eventually.
But they're an hour long each.
I need to find something
That's true.
fluffy
From
to
what
watch
I
after
think
it.
Anime News Network
It was
saying.
8-hour-long episodes. I would say I haven't seen the trilogy movies that come after the first movie yet, because those flip around and where they actually take place. Like one set when Kogami is still actually an inspector,
Mm-hmm.
and others are like flesh out some of these characters more apparently,
Okay.
and like it's kind of like a side story OVA movie length. I've heard they're all pretty solid from what I've heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Like I heard the last one especially is like the best one.
Oh.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not truly against watching it. It is not something I would pick
It's
for
not your favorite
myself.
genre. That's all.
I definitely need something fluffy to watch after it because it is dark and I need a palate cleanser of
See,
happy.
I can watch it and go to bed and be fine.
I
I'm
can
the same
too, but I don't want to. I
No,
like
I'm
to
fine
end
with
my
that.
day on a happy note.
My happy note's the fact that I can go to bed.
Same.
What have I been watching recently? I've watched so many things because I like the things. But I like my things more magical. Like Grand Blem, I watched that. Good show. Bit like Madoka Magica, but they fight in magical mecha. Interesting show. Still watching Fire Force and From Commonplace to World's Strongest. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
That last episode was a little weird. Didn't like the talk of children.
Funny girls.
17-year-old should not be talking about having babies with 300-year-old vampires.
That manga was.
I am still amused by the show. It is not a great show, but it is funny at times.
It's one that you can just watch.
Yeah.
So for me, it's again Dr. Stone. People reset stuff, so I'm not going to say more. I'm still going watching Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Still like 100 episodes.
100 and like low 120, and then there's movies and stuff.
Oh.
So
70-something episodes in.
yeah, so about a bit more than halfway or so. And then we need to start SS Gridman and watch more.
SSS.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, thank you.
I think there's like 4 S's in there.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like how many?
Or bo 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 bo.
How many
Yeah,
exclamation-
exactly.
Just keep it going, you know.
How many exclamation points are behind Kaijo?
Oh,
8.
Keijo?
Yeah, Keijo.
Too many. Some people might say not enough. But those are the main ones I'm really watching
that's
right now.
that fake sport one, right?
The
Some
booty butt
people
one?
think it's fake.
That's the most,
Definitely
Is that
fake.
the
As some-
booty butt
Yeah.
one?
as someone who's not into sports anime, that's the most I've been into sports in a long time.
I'm just saying, as a girl, that would hurt. So
Yeah.
no.
Nobody is using their boobs as a weapon.
No. And they're not that bouncy.
Well,
Nothing about that series is real, except
No, you do boob
unless the
jump
group
with
from
it.
Brazil that
Yeah.
actually started their own league in spirit of it.
I was going
They're
to say,
real.
yeah. I was
They
going to say,
exist.
someone has it as an actual sport.
well, somebody tried to make Quidditch a sport, and that was also a terrible idea. So whatever.
Yeah, I've seen college Quidditch shirts before, and I
Quidditch
just
is
kind
not a
of
sport, and it was
shake my
terribly
head.
made. I know their fake version completely changes the rules because
you can't fly.
150 points for a snitch. That's like the game almost no matter what.
Yeah, see that I always thought that was stupid, but anyway, yes,
50 points max.
yeah.
But yeah, that's the main points right there. So, so any final thoughts before the end?
Thanks for tuning in.
Watch more anime.
Much more.
Definitely watch more anime.
Which is our message every podcast. Listen to us. There we go.
Yes.
You should be watching.
That's Funimation's former tagline.
And they can't
Why
watch
did they
us.
take it away? Why did they take it away?
That's a whole
You
nother
should be
conversation.
watching.
No, you should be
Never should have
listening.
been.
Should be ours.
Yeah. Yes, you should be
should be
listening.
But
To
we
our
do it like in a
antics.
creepy voice.
Yes, pick us.
Subliminal messaging.
So yeah, thank you for watching, guys. And this was Ed,
Nicole. Jessica.
David.
Read.
and for next time we would be talking about the food genre. So Do we want to mention what those shows would be?
Food Wars and Restaurant from Another World. Or
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep. So stay tuned for those coming up. Be
And we-
excited.
Gotta get watching.
Yes, and we gotta get watching them.
Do your homework, Nicole.
I already watched all of those ones.
Oh, okay.
I binged Food Wars like the week after we talked about possibly doing it.
Jesus.
All right. Thank you, guys.